The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. So excited to be here with you on this Wednesday morning. Spoiler alert, we have Dr. Granpeche here in the studio. So if you've been missing her, we are live this morning with her. I'm Shannon Penrod. We are coming to you live from the Warner Center in Woodland Hills, California. This is the home for Autism Live. It is also the home for the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. So thrilled to be coming to you on this Wednesday morning. I want to remind you that next Wednesday is our big Halloween show. You're not going to want to miss that. But today we are live in the studio for the next 2 hours. We're going to have Dr. Doreen Granpeche in just a minute answering your questions, not asking you questions, although maybe asking you questions too, answering your questions in a segment we call Ask Dr. Doreen. And then in the next hour, we have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. My co-host, Nancy Allspot Jackson, will be joining me. Our guest during that hour will be the fabulous licensed marriage and family therapist, Vince Redman, and also author Maxine Rosalier, who is the author of Queen for a Day, a hilarious book that is a must-read for any autism mom, or anyone who loves an autism mom. It is hilarious. In any case, we're here now and we want to interact with you. We want to hear what you think, what you have questions about, what you're concerned about, or just your general thoughts. So there's lots of ways that you can connect with us, and we're showing you some of the different ways that you can connect with us. I want to remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, a whole lot of things to do and a whole bunch more are coming to you. In just a few days, we're going to be going live with our new website, and our toy and gift guide for 2018 will go live on that website. I'm going to sneeze. I'm so excited about it. Then it went away. Don't you hate that when that happens? Okay, but we've been working on this toy guide forever. It's really exciting. So on November 1st, our new website goes live and the new toy guide will go live. And this year it's interactive, where you can, if you like a toy, you can click on it and buy it right from there, which is a really cool thing. And we've also expanded it and put in an entire category just for parents. Last year we had the category for adults that are on the spectrum, and we thought, why are we leaving the parents out? So the really cool gifts that are on that list, and we're going to be demoing them for you in the months of November and December. So really, really exciting. But also want to remind you, until then, the website, the way it works now is you click on the triangle that is on the computer screen. It starts the live show playing or the most recently recorded live show. To the side of all that is something we call the live feature. All you have to do is put your cursor there, type and hit enter. It doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to log in. You don't have to be able to pick how many pictures have a bridge. How much do we love that? None of that. You don't have to have a username, a password, nothing. It's all free. Just interact with us. That's all that we ask of you. All right. I don't want to belabor it anymore because it's time for Ask Dr. Doreen.
Dr. Doreen Granpeche.
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Granpeche.
Dr. Granpeche.
Dr. Doreen Granpeche.
Dr. Doreen Granpeche is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Back to Autism Live and to Ask Dr. Doreen.
It's so good to be back.
It's been a while.
It's been a long time, yeah.
And we always miss you when you're gone.
Thank you so much.
But we know that you have other important things to do and other important places to go.
I appreciate it. It's been a lot of traveling for me, but I also know, I think the show was off for a few weeks anyway.
We've had a couple of shows off here and there, hit and miss. So
It's good to be back.
It is good to be back.
you.
It's thrilling to be back. Always wonderful to be here with you. And for people who don't know, Dr. Granpeesheh is a true expert in the field of autism. I believe the preeminent expert
Thank
in the
you so
field of
much,
autism.
Anne.
She's a visionary in this field. She can not only see what's coming around the corner, which I think is amazing, but she's always thinking about the entire autism community, not just the individual, although of course the individual, but thinking about the family and the community and how we can get the entire community to participate so that we can remove roadblocks, right?
Yeah, we
and
try
make more
to.
things
That's
possible.
Right. That's right.
Well, I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
I do
You
say
always-
behind your back.
You embarrass me. but
No,
I appreciate it.
I say behind your back all the time that I would follow you into a burning building
Thank
because
you
I would
so
know
much.
you were
That's-
going in for a good reason.
Yeah.
Right? And I would. I don't know too many other people. I mean, like, obviously I would follow my son into a burning building, but even if it was my husband, I would be like, honey, what are you doing? Why are you going into the burning building? Right? So I think there's you and Jem that I would be like, no,
you.
I'm going in.
Love you.
But
Thank
you,
so
you,
much.
I would know you were going in for a good reason. Even with Jem, I would be like, I don't know why you're going in. I'm not sure if it's right, but I'm going in with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, with my husband, I'd be like, don't do that. I've asked you not to do that. I love my husband. My husband's the best.
Yes.
But I would still be like, honey?
I'd be questioning him anyway.
Of course I would. Of course I would. So thrilled to be here with you and have you answer people's
Thank you very
questions. It's a
much.
lovely thing that you donate this hour to be able to answer people's
My
questions.
pleasure.
We do like to give a disclaimer at the start of the show to remind people that there is no expert in any field with any amount of expertise that could give individual specific advice in this particular format. So that's not what we're doing, but if you write in and if you're as specific as possible, what Dr. Granpeesheh will do is she'll give you information based on her knowledge, but then you need to take that back to the experts who have eyes on the individual to help you to figure out what to do next.
Right.
But you know, this is a huge savings of time and money, and it's a great thing to take a tour of Dr. Granpeesheh's brain so that, you know, you don't have to, the amount of time you would have to spend looking up the answers that she gives you, you would never have enough time
Well-
because it's a lifetime of experience.
And continues to be learning.
Well-
I also learn a lot of stuff as time goes on.
But you know, that's another thing that I really appreciate about you is that
Thank
I
you.
have had the opportunity now to be in a lot of rooms with you and see, and when I tell you guys she's the real deal, I have seen many times when I thought, well, the easier decision would be to do one thing, and you never pick the easy way. You always pick the right way. I'm always impressed, always,
Thank you, Shannon.
with
That
what you
means a lot
decide
to
to
me.
do.
Thank you very much.
And I know for people watching, you know, it can be very confusing in the autism world about who can you trust, who's in this for the right reasons. And I always say behind your back, I don't think I say it enough to you, but she's the real deal. She is the real,
very much.
real
Thank
deal.
you very much.
Always
I
doing the right
appreciate
thing.
that.
I
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
it. That's why I would follow her into a burning building. Okay, now,
Okay, now.
let's get down to some questions. Okay, so this was one that came in a while ago, but I wanted to have you discuss it because we don't want to leave things up to me. Because what do I know? But anyway, so, and this is somebody who's studying to be a BCBA wrote in and said, can you explain what pairing is when discussing ABA? How long does the process take, and how do you know the place you have chosen is doing it well?
Yeah, and so I kind of need a little bit more information because I don't know exactly what you're referring to. So pairing could refer to many different things. It could be the pairing of two stimuli. It could be pairing of a reinforcer with a particular stimulus. So maybe you can write in and tell us
Okay.
a little bit more what it is you're referring to.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll look forward to them writing back and saying that. Okay, the next question. Good morning, ladies. I would love for Dr. Doreen or any other specialist to answer my question, please. I'm in New Jersey and currently looking for a school for my 8-year-old with autism. He's at home with me right now because the school he attended last year was a big mess. It was a special needs school, and my son acquired so many negative behaviors while he attended there. The school he attended before this one was an autism school with ABA all day long, but we decided it was not appropriate for him anymore because he's very verbal and had no one to make friends with since all the other kids were nonverbal or had very little language. My son is considered high functioning on the spectrum since he has lots of language and can talk in sentences for all his needs, things he likes, things that bother him, like if he's in pain, and when it comes to things he's interested in, he can talk for a very long time about it. He's very smart, but has behaviors like hitting his head, and then they did not continue. So this is a question in this neighborhood that we get a lot from people, that there is that gray area of kids that the school just doesn't know what to do with them because they can speak. And some schools tend to want to put them with kids who are very profoundly affected, which, parents will write to us and say, I don't think that's where my child belongs. And they don't know because schools don't quite know what to do with them. So what would you suggest? They're in New Jersey.
Right. So, and I was looking at it from also a different perspective, which is that if a child has a lot of deficits, is like suffering from sort of severe aspects of autism, then those are the times where you might actually look at special education, which this is special education. And then you would say, okay, now I'm focused, because there are so many things to teach, I will focus on those things that are the most necessary, the most important, like let's say language, communication, safety, whatever it is, right? But then there are situations where a child is higher functioning, and to begin with, I'm not sure looking at a special ed school is the right placement. So, and again, it's really hard for me because I don't know your child, I haven't seen your child, but I do want to make a few comments on what you've written. So, you wrote that he is considered higher functioning on the spectrum. I assume someone has said that to you, which is great. That's a good sign. And he's very verbal, and he had no one to make friends. He's very verbal. He talks in sentences. He has a lot of language. He can express his needs. He can talk about the things he likes. He talks about the things that bother him, or if he has pain. He can talk about the things he's interested in so to me, this is actually a higher functioning child. And really, you're not going to find an autism classroom that is going to be appropriate for him. What you most likely need is a regular education classroom with a one-to-one aid for him, plus a lot of hours of ABA outside of the school. So, and let me just go back and talk about how that works. I just want you to also know that hitting his head, it has nothing at all to do with the severity of his autism. The hitting his head has to do with frustration, not knowing how to express his frustrations, and not understanding, not being able to self-regulate. We all get upset. We all have kind of internal tantrums, but we've learned to, and even children, over time, that's what one of the things it's, taming, right? The environment tames us and teaches us that tantruming in certain conditions is not okay. In other conditions, when you're a little child, it's very acceptable. So what happens with our kids is they never really learn that hitting his head and so on is not okay. And I'll tell you why. Because when a child hits his head, our normal reaction is to completely freak out. Like everyone, if you see a child hitting their head against the wall, let's say, we all panic and we run to the child. And what the child learns is that this is the easiest way for me to get attention. It's way easier than to ask. It's way easier to help than to wait for help. It's the fastest, quickest, easiest way to get attention. So, please, I'm not saying don't pay attention to him when he hits his head, because we would need to do a real functional assessment and figure out exactly why he's hitting his head. But what I'm telling you here is that hitting your head doesn't detract from the high functioning level of autism that he has. So, being a high functioning child, you need to shoot for a little bit higher goals. And what that is regular education with lots of modifications for him. And that goes through an IEP. So you can have an IEP, an individualized education plan for him, where you request a one-to-one aide who's helping him through every activity, and modifications, accommodations. That's what they're referred to as accommodations. So things like, You know, you will be given the homework ahead of time. You will be told the material that he needs to study. The one-to-one aid will help make things a little bit easier for him, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of that sort of stuff is modified for him. But now there will be areas, not just in his academics, but in other things as well, like making friends and socializing and showing appropriate behavior and so on. There will be things that the one-to-one aid or the teacher cannot teach him. And so those will be things that will be taught to him through his actual ABA program. And so you need an ABA program. We are actually in New Jersey. There are other providers that are in New Jersey. New Jersey is a mandated state. There's a lot of insurance coverage. So what you end up doing is you find a regular program, school program for him, and you find a provider of ABA services. And he'll be going, he's only 8, so you could even have him go to school part-time, so he doesn't have to go the whole day. Even if he goes the whole day, you still have all weekends and every afternoon to receive ABA. And you could easily give him 20, 25 hours of ABA, which is perfect and wonderful, and it would make a huge difference for him in his life. And so push him a little bit harder and give him a lot of tutoring and help.
Yeah, I always think about if we were gonna, like, for instance, I don't know, I'm not a golfer. I don't know how to golf. And if I were to go and you know, somebody handed me a golf club and said, okay, let's golf now, and you got 3 seconds to hit this tee, and I'm not going to do it right the first time. And if they said, well, now you just forge on, and every time we get up to the golf tee, nobody tells me what I'm doing wrong. I get no instruction. By the 8th hole, I'm going to be frustrated. I'm not going to want to do it anymore. I'm not going to be having a good time, even though it's supposed to be something that's a leisure activity.
Absolutely.
And for our kids going to school, it's that times a million, because they're every single activity at school. If you don't know how to negotiate it, you just keep hitting a wall and it doesn't work, right? But if we give them the ABA on the side, it helps them to be able to take that moment, pare it down, get practice doing it, and then go back into the classroom and using it. So, you know, for the younger kids, I hear you say all the time, when we have the 4-year-olds who aren't ready to go to school yet, and school wants them to come to nursery school, keeping them at the center, getting them revs, so when they're 5, they go, great. But for the 8-year-olds, I think we forget all the time how important it is to be giving them a workout area where they can perfect the things that they want to do at school.
Absolutely, Shannon. And also, it's even more than that, I think. It's not just that they don't know what to do, it's also that they've learned a completely different thing to do, which now becomes completely non-functional for them. So just as an example, I don't remember which wise mom said this to me, but it was definitely a mom who said that when our kids are young, when they're babies, they cry. And we learn to, when typically developing babies, right? And that's fine, because that is the way the baby communicates. They cry one way if they want to be changed, one way if they're hungry, one way if whatever, they want attention and play or whatever it is, or if they're tired, right? So we learn that. Now, with our kids on the spectrum, with typically developing kids, at one point, it's not appropriate anymore. Like at 1.5 or 2, if someone's crying for food, every mom will hold the food and say, use your words, right? Tell me what you want, whatever it is, right? We teach our kids that way. With our kids on the spectrum, we don't do that because we're so shocked by the label autism. And because in some cases it's hard for them, right? They have apraxia, they have other issues, so they can't really switch over to other more adaptive ways of communication. So these types of things like hitting their head, tantruming, and so on remain as forms of communication. Then they go to school, and all of a sudden, guess what? It's not okay. So, you know, it's not the child's fault by any means. These are things that the child has learned have been effective for him in the past. Now he's going to school. And yes, of course, this mom is right. There's a lot of school programs that just don't have the resources to help with these types of situations. But I have to tell you, and Shannon, you'll agree, for those of us who've been around for a while, this is a good era to have a child with autism. Let me tell you, like, having a child on the spectrum and having access to insurance coverage is incredible. Having so many people in schools who actually even know what autism is incredible. I mean, you know, just 10 years ago, there was no health coverage at all. So think about that. I mean,
I will say, though, that I do think that the education system has not caught up to how well our kids can do. So you'll see a lot of places, I mean, we just went through this when Jem went to go to junior high, that the junior high school said to us, we don't do inclusion, we don't believe in inclusion.
Yeah.
And you said to me, don't you accept that, don't you accept that, Shannon, you keep on pushing and tell them, don't, because they wanted to put him in an SD class. He'd never been in an SD class. And you said, don't you let them do that, he's ready.
Yeah.
And that spurred me on, and I said, no, you cannot discriminate against him. You can't just put everybody in a room. And they were saying, but he'll be safer there. And I said, your lack of being able to control your other kids is not a reason to segregate my child. And as a parent, you have to get your Norma Ray on. You really
100%.
do. And you have to go in and say, you know, it's a free, appropriate public education, and it's individualized. That's why it's called an IEP.
Right.
So this isn't, what you're offering me is not appropriate for my child. It has to be individualized. My child needs to be in a gen ed classroom with support. And FAPE, the free appropriate public education, it's in IDEA, and it says in the least restrictive environment.
That's right.
In which your child can access a floor of opportunity to access the curriculum.
Right,
so
absolutely.
you have the right for your child to be in that gen ed classroom.
That's right.
But I do think that the frustration piece, as you were saying, the ABA, look, I have a whole new take on tantrums in the menopause years. I have a whole new take on them because I have thrown a couple of tantrums recently, right?
Yeah.
Because if I can't get anybody, I think there is a cruel joke in life that menopause comes when we have teenagers. I think this is particularly God laughing at us, right?
Yeah.
And
It's just
and
God giving us the opportunity to go to another level.
is
That's
that what it is? And so I'm at that other level. I'm at a higher learning frequency then. But you know, I've thrown a couple of tantrums because it's the only way I can get somebody to listen to me.
Right.
But when somebody gives me more skills so that I can communicate, then I do. And if your child is getting the ABA piece on the side, then the tantrums won't be there. The banging the head on the desk won't be there, which means the school will be better able to see what's happening. Because schools look at the hitting the head and they go, oh, that's not the gen ed classroom. It can be. It should be.
Right.
But I do think that you're still going to have to do some inroads and be a little bit of a pioneer for the inclusion piece. But you will leave with more for your child if you do, and you'll leave behind a legacy for other people coming behind. I know when we left Jem's junior high school, they said, thank you. We didn't know that we could do what we just did.
That's amazing.
And I said, I knew you could do it.
That's amazing. That's
and it
awesome.
was amazing.
That's
So
awesome.
so stick
And
to your
know,
guns. But I did that because
absolutely.
you said to.
Well, I'm glad you did that because not only for Jem's sake, obviously, but also for other kids
Absolutely.
and other parents. Like part of this, I think, is just also our own internal fears.
Oh, yeah.
Like, as a parent, you just don't want to push your child to the point where they're tantruming, right? So it's like we end up also avoiding that experience, and we also worry and fear our children failing. So we only tend to do what that teacher was saying, put them in an environment where they're safer, because you know, safety means everything's fine for now.
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean things are going to be fine in the future, right? Because this child needs to learn stuff that he will use in the future, and he's not going to learn it in this class. So those are the types of things, like, we just have to be brave about this. It's not, as a parent, I have to say, and I don't know about other fields because this has been my life, right? I don't know much about anything other than autism. So this is a field where every positive change has been brought about by parents. Parents have done everything in this field, and you have to be a parent. You are a parent. You have to be one of those parents. You have to be fearless, and you have to continue this march. That's what it is. Yeah. It's a process. You and I are now looking back and saying it's so much better now than 10 years ago. Yeah. Are you kidding me? You know, 40 years ago, people didn't know how to diagnose it. Nobody knew what it is.
Right.
So
I love to think about where we're headed.
Oh, the progress
because
has
it's
been
amazing.
astounding. Yes.
It is absolutely amazing. So we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to be answering more of your questions, and you can write in on our live features. I haven't been able to access them yet, but I'll be taking a look during the break to see what you guys are writing in, questions on Facebook, YouTube, you name it. So stick with us. We'll be right back after these messages.
When Maddie was diagnosed, I'll be honest, I was very ignorant on what autism was. I knew that autism was basically something that hit boys at the age of 2 to 3 and shut down. And with Maddie, she was doing all the same signs and symptoms of a typical child with autism spectrum disorder.
Stand up.
I was thinking that we might be moving somewhere so that people could assist us either in the house or us going to see our daughter, because she was shutting down to a point that she wouldn't even recognize you being there by putting your hand in her face and yelling her name.
She didn't even acknowledge us coming into the room. She had barely any eye contact. She didn't interact with her sisters. She didn't really do anything. She just basically lined up her toys and that was about it. With 8 volunteers, including my husband and I'm the team leader, and so I do all the curriculum and get everything ready each week.
Jana was downstairs until 11 o'clock at night working on curriculum, going through 2 different textbooks.
Look, who's that?
And then we, as a group, meet on Monday nights, and we would go through what the curriculum was from Jana. And a lot of times we would go, well, how exactly do you do that? How do you sit her at the table and do this trial based? With what skills has done for us, it's taken that away from Jana trying to figure out the curriculum for one. She can go down, or even our laptop, and she can sit down and through all these questions, it comes up with the different programs.
At least for me, it was a relief off my shoulders. I was worried that I might be missing a curriculum that maybe she needs to know, where the skills, they have every possible thing your child needs to know from 0 to 7. They have a program for that.
What noise is this?
Every program that we did with her, I knew it was specific for what she needed to learn. Because before skills, it was a lot of, okay, well, is that really age appropriate for a 2-year-old? You know, because it's not generalized. It's anywhere from 0 to 7. This is what your child needs to know in most manuals you'll find. But for this, okay, yep, she should be learning this. And no, she's not 4 yet. She doesn't need to know that yet.
We are so fortunate that Jana was able to attend a conference put on by CARD that opened the door for skills, and that there's no looking back for us.
We started using the program in November, and it seemed like by January something just clicked. And she has completely kind of came out of her fog that she was in for quite a while.
I have never read a documented case on any child that has not benefited anything from applied behavior analysis, and now with this new skills and being, like the E version of ABA, I can't imagine that it doing anything harmful to their child. It's nothing but exponential growth for us.
To see her now, it just blows us away. I mean, we call her our little miracle child because in 7 months' time, she's just blossomed into this normal, functioning child.
She is developing roundly. She is socializing. She's playing with her peers. She's learning from her peers. It's very joyous.
Maddie, can you tell me what you see outside?
Snow.
Snow?
If you're even thinking about doing it, do it. Because the absolute worst thing you can do is do nothing at all. And even if you use this program and it's just a single mom or a single dad working in the evenings with their child, this program is going to benefit them. It's going to show you where they are, it's going to show you where they need to go, and it's going to show you what skills and how to get there. It is an online book on how to help recover your child.
Welcome back to Autism Live during Ask Dr. Doreen. Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet is here with us in the studio. She's answering your questions in real time. Now, we had a bunch of comments that came in on Facebook, and of course, on mine, they're a little bit mixed around, so I'm going to see if I can get this right. We had somebody who wrote in and said, are there any tips for someone who is nonverbal starting a pre-K program? He says, how do I help him to transition to preschool? He uses sign language and some PECs. We're waiting for card evaluation for ABA soon. He will start in January, but not sure if it is an SPED class. And a couple of people have written in talking to him saying that they had a child went to an autistic pre-K class. He only had to go 8 to 11, so it wasn't bad. If he's having trouble, you can request this so that it's a part day. And somebody else who said the teachers will quickly pick up on his cues. And they said he's really academically smart. He knows all his letters, knows all of his numbers, 1 through 20, knows all of his colors and all of his shapes, memorizes words. He's working on tracing letters and numbers with his finger. He's able to drink out of a cup, now. There's just no verbal communication. And so a lot more discussion among the people about the verbal piece.
Does that parents say how old this child is?
I think, Gabriel, on the first part that I don't have, we got an age, didn't we? It's pre-K, so is it 3 or 4?
Yeah,
preschool soon, so we don't have an actual year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a few different things here. So the fact that he knows all those things is great. Those are concrete skills that have to do with memory, and that's great for him, and that's very, very good. It doesn't jive with the fact that he's tracing the letters with his fingers. So my first reaction is, oh, his fine motor skills are delayed. Like, you need to make sure that you do a broad assessment, which skills really provides that to a large extent, so that you assess across the board. So make sure, because motor is very important for everything. It's gross motor develops, then fine motor, then oral motor. So the fact that he's not talking and he's tracing with his finger makes me think there's a motor issue, which could also influence the movement of the tongue, right? So I would definitely do more practice on the oral motor muscles. And of course, speech paths are very good at.
He's about to be 3.
He's about to. So he's really young. He's a little guy. That's awesome. I wouldn't be worried about him. He's way too young right now to establish that he's nonverbal. So please, let's not go there yet.
Yeah.
I would really focus a lot on oral motor exercises and trying to get utterances. Does he? Since you're live, this is great. Like I'm like in. Does he make any sounds at all when he wants things, for instance, or is he completely mute?
Like even grunting.
Right. That's
right,
really
and let
important.
us know.
So I would really focus on those things. Now, I'm a supporter. I'm a stronger support. Well, there's good stuff about sign language and there's good stuff about PEC's program. I wouldn't do both. Definitely. I mean, he's super smart if he's communicating with both. Super smart. Like he's tolerating you guys. Like he's like, all right, fine, change languages. I'll do both. But I would, if it was me, I would probably choose PECs only because the world can understand PECs, right? Not everyone can understand.
He says cookie, so he can say cookie.
Oh, you need to work on language. It's super exciting. So let's talk a little bit about the next steps, because you got to do a whole bunch of stuff now. He's a 2-year-old. You have to, don't even worry about school right now. Just put that on the side. This is not something you need to focus on. What you need to focus on at 2 is getting him a 40-hour-a-week ABA program. Yes, you heard me. 40 hours a week, 1-to-1 ABA. And that program will come in and work heavily. They will use PECs probably as his primary mode for now. but they will use it to get his language going. So this will involve a lot of verbal imitation, and you can start that right now. In fact, please go on Skills. I'm like, now I want you to start today.
Yeah.
So go on Skills.
Skillsforautism.com.
Skillsforautism.com, and you will answer questions. Go in the, just get licensed. I think, I'm not sure how much it is. It's very inexpensive.
Well, I think that it's around $75 a month, but when you call to get it, and we do encourage you to get Skills to start, because you'll be able to see exactly where he is. But when you call, say that you're calling because you saw it on Autism Live, and ask them for Shannon's friends and family discount, and they'll take off quite a substantial amount. Like,
That's
I think
great.
it's 30% off if you say that you're calling after seeing it on Autism Live.
That's perfect.
And if they don't give you the Shannon friends and family, call me.
Yeah.
And I'll make sure that you get that, because there is a discount.
So you definitely need to do that. So please become a Skills member. Then you'll receive a whole ton of questions. Now he's only shortly 3, so it won't be as many questions as if he was 8. So, but you'll get a whole ton of questions, probably around 300-400 questions. When you get these questions, you can go and come back, and you don't have to do it all in one sitting. When you get the questions, just answer them. The questions are very simple. Does your child do X? And you say yes or no. And if you don't know, you can test it and then come back and answer it, or you could just say, I don't know. And if you say, I don't know, it'll list those items and you can test them later. But they're basic things, but they're across all modalities. So they will be from language, social, play, academic, adaptive, cognitive, and executive functions, and what am I missing? There's one, motor. Did I say motor? So it's across all areas of functioning. You'll get questions, and you'll say yes or no. Anything that he can do will go into a pool of, great, these are already mastered. Like, for instance, academically, he'll be very advanced, okay? Anything that he cannot do will go into sort of a supermarket of lessons and skills that need to be taught in order to catch him up to his age, okay? Which will be a lot of language, possibly a lot of social stuff, and so on.
I just want to remind you, because I had forgotten too, they're saying that they're in the process of starting with CARD, and that CARD has just come to their town. So they're just opening an office in their town. So they're going to ask you to do the skills assessment anyway.
They are, but I just don't want to delay things.
Exactly.
And that's great if you are starting with CARD. Maybe even just send your information to Shannon, and honestly, we can walk over and ask admissions to push it forward as much as possible. I just want you to start, because you have a child who's not yet 3, who is showing signs of being high functioning and intelligent, and the nonverbal part is what we do. We'll teach him to speak. It's just, I want you to start and not waste any more time, because it's super exciting to get your child in there and to try to teach him or her as much as possible.
And there are things that you can be doing on Skills as you wait to ramp up to having your therapist for a CARD.
Absolutely.
So, and for people who are watching, and I don't have my little tent, Veronica, I know that you're watching. If there's any way you can go in my office and bring my little Skills tent into me, because I rely on it greatly, and I don't have it on my desk today. But Skills is a wonderful tool that you can use in a lot of different ways. But one of the things you can do with Skills is take an assessment, and it will tell you exactly where your child is. Then it shows you all the lessons that Dr. Grampichet was just talking about. So you can be anywhere in the world and ask for that friends and family discount. Tell them Shannon sent you from Autism Live. Anybody can have access to that. But if you are a CARD client, you automatically get it.
That's right.
And there's no extra cost to you if you're a CARD client.
No, not at all. And as a CARD client, not only do you get access, but your supervisor kind of lives on Skills. Like, they just go one by one, select from those lessons once you've done the assessment, and that's how we put the treatment plan together for your child. But what I want to also tell you is that, if it's a new site, we're probably pretty anxious to start all the families there to build the site. But what I do want to tell you, this is the time where you should also probably be educating yourself as much as possible. And so another really good resource is IBT, which is Institute for Behavioral Training, and the URL for that is ibehavioraltraining.com. And you should get on there and start looking at some of those modules. There's a whole bunch of stuff there, like what is autism? What is ABA? How do I teach my child to communicate? How do I teach my child to not tantrum? How do I deal with my child in a restaurant? Whatever it is, all these different things. And the more of these you can do, the more you'll feel like you speak the language. It's really important. Like, we get pretty technical in ABA because it's not like talk therapy or something. It's very specific ways of teaching small skills and then building on them and so on. And so there's a lot of lingo, and getting yourself familiar with, you know, what's an SD and how do I shape something or fade it or whatever. All that sort of stuff is really important.
Yeah.
Extremely important, because you're the one that's going to actually carry the hours through to real life all the time as well. So that's something you should be doing. The other thing you should be doing is just looking on autism-live's website and looking at all the incredible video footage that's there, like from other families. There's a whole series of Mission Possible where families are talking about what happened with their child. There's the A Word, which takes you day by day through the life of this little boy and how he's acclimating and his family's acclimating to ABA. I mean, just go ahead and check out a lot of these things, because inform yourself, and it'll make you feel very much supported by this community.
I have to say, I mean, I'm very particularly proud of the fact that we have a playlist that's just jargon of the day. We've been doing this for years, where we take a jargon term and I give you the actual definition and then I make fun of it, the actual definition, and then I give you the watered down, like the, you know, how to understand it from our point of view and give you an example. And I love that I'm hearing from all these colleges that they're using it in their BCBA programs.
No way.
And cracking up because I make fun of, I say, and now the definition that will give the BCBA's hives, but that we can understand. And they're using them to actually train the BCBAs, which I get very excited. I get goosebumps when I hear that from colleges and universities and BCBA programs. But it's meant for the parents, because I do make fun of the terms that you guys use and go, let's make it easy. So in any case, I definitely see that you're doing a lot of the things that Dr. Grampiche asked you to do. Want to remind you, and we're going to take a break so that Veronica can give me my little skills tent so that I can be talking more proficiently about skills, because there's a phone number and I can't remember it. But I want to give you my email address so that if you want to reach out directly to me, s.penrod@autism-live.com. Because there are a lot of things that you can be doing to get yourself set up for success for day one when your card therapist, when your team is assembled. It's a very exciting time.
Yeah, it's very good.
When you're someplace where a card office is opening, I mean, you're really a pioneer.
Yeah.
You're a part of the beginning of a change that will happen in your community that's so exciting. I've seen it happen so many times now. And that you're at the forefront of it is a very exciting thing. And particularly with a child with these particular skills, this is going to be a good thing for you.
Absolutely. And it's a fun time. Oh my God. Like, if he's saying cookie right now, the very first thing, one of the very first lessons we work on is manding, which is requesting objects and items. And he'll be saying 5-10 more words very shortly. So it'll be very fun.
They said he also says ice cream when he's hot because he wants to cool off. So, I mean, that's like putting a bunch of things together.
Yeah,
that's
very smart.
Super smart.
Very
super smart.
I love that.
All right, let's take a break. And then we have a question that came in about potty training a 5-year-old that I want to get to. And we have another question here that I want to, about a regional center client. But let's take a break, and we're going to get my skills tent in here so that Ileana Fajeda won't, run me out of town on a rail. All right, stick with us. Right back after these messages.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to be creating a popsicle puzzle. As we do this fun activity, you'll notice these icons will pop up. These icons tell you important information about the skills we're using to create the craft and where you can find them on the Skills program. Skills is an ABA-based tool that helps parents create a curriculum that will help their children that are on the autism spectrum. Well, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are popsicle sticks, tape, and arts and crafts materials. So step 1, you're going to take your popsicle sticks and lay them down and cover them with tape so they don't move around. Now that my popsicle sticks have been secured with tape, here comes the fun part. You're going to take your arts and crafts materials, they can be paint, markers, whatever you have, and then you're going to decorate this with a beautiful picture. This is the beautiful picture that I made. Now what I'm going to do is remove the tape. And now, as you can see, they come apart. And here is your awesome puzzle. Now, the fun part is trying to assemble the picture that you just made now that it's all been separated. I hope you enjoyed this activity with me. Until next time, guys, craft on! To find more about skills and to access all of the lessons you saw in today's Smarty, visit skillsforautism.com and click on the parents icon. Skills, the online autism solution.
Do you provide care services to someone with autism? Recently, more and more children are being diagnosed with the condition and getting the support they need as awareness grows. But what happens to these children as they grow up? It's estimated that over 500,000 youth with autism will turn 18 in the next decade, and they'll be faced with a very difficult reality. As children with autism grow up, their services start to disappear or become very difficult to access. Things like medical care, mental health counseling, vocational training, and more. All services that are still desperately needed. The loss of support that youth with autism face as they grow up is so severe that it's referred to in the autism community as falling off a cliff. Adults with autism need the same level of support they had as children to avoid falling off the services cliff. Introducing Skills Living, the web-based software designed specifically to help transitioning youth and adults with autism so they can avoid the cliff and instead fly to success. With Skills Living, help your learner with autism develop the skills they need in all the critical areas of adult life, including self-control, planning, and problem-solving, effective communication, performing life skill tasks for independent living, acquiring and maintaining employment or other meaningful activities, developing and maintaining social skills and relationships, accessing transportation and public services, and being safe. Skills Living includes a comprehensive assessment, a data collection mobile app, behavior intervention plan builder, and automatic progress reporting. It also provides a complete curriculum addressing 16 key areas spanning the entire range of functioning adulthood. Skills Living is easy to use and can be implemented by schools, parents, and autism service providers. Call or click today for your free demo and see how Skills Living can help your learner with autism avoid the cliff and instead reach their fullest potential. Skills Living. Wish, learn, become.
Welcome back, and so thrilled to be here with you. I love somebody said, I just happened to stumble upon this. I'm definitely going to look into Skills. Let me just tell you, we couldn't find the tent, but here's the phone number for Skills. You can go to skillsforautism.com, but the phone number is 877-975-4559. Don't forget to say, I was watching this on Autism Live and I want Shannon's friends and family discount. And if they don't know what that is, it's somebody new, reach out to me, s.penrod@autism-live.com, and I'll get you the friends and family discount. That I can do. Okay. Now, somebody else had written in and said, okay, so help with potty training, 5-year-old autistic boy who refuses to, mainly number 2. He just doesn't even acknowledge it, but we've tried a lot, rewarding and visuals. So what do you say, Dr. Grant-Pichet?
Yeah, so I'm super cautious about giving advice on potty training because I don't want to mess anything up. And you're working on bowel movement training, which is even a little bit more difficult than training for urination. But what I always say is we have 2 things going on. One is we have a series of videos here that we've done on this subject, and Sienna, I believe, did a really kind of extensive one, and you can look that one up. How they look that up is just put in the
It's easiest if you go to our YouTube page. So it's youtube.com/autism-live and put in potty training. We show it a lot on the air here. But the other thing that you can do, quite frankly, is if you just Google Ask Dr. Doreen.
Okay.
Because what that does, and this will be coming on our new website on November 1st as well.
That's great.
But right now, you can go to the YouTube page and look up all the Dr. Doreen videos, but it doesn't tell you what all the topics are. If you want to know what the topics are, just Google Ask Dr. Doreen. It will send you to a page that's on the CARD website where it's all text. So it'll say potty training.
Yeah, which is
You
fabulous.
go to potty training, and then it shows you every question, and you can click on the question, and it takes you right to that space in the video, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
And so the updated version of that, the whole Ask Dr. Doreen, every question ever asked on Ask Dr. Doreen will be coming on November 1st on the new website.
That's perfect because there's a whole series of we use at CARD the Fox and Azerin procedure, and there's a series of steps, and depending on where your child is, you have to do the next thing. So I can't really tell you the whole sequence because it might not even relate to you. Maybe he's completely trained for urination and we're just talking about bowel movements. Now if we're talking about bowel movements, it becomes really important to figure out if there are signs that you can tell he's about to have a bowel movement. These signs could be anything from sometimes kids will go and hide in a closet or somewhere because they really want privacy. Sometimes parents can just tell by the way they tense their body. Sometimes a child will have a bowel movement at approximately the same time every day, right after eating, whatever it is. Those signs are very key to making sure that your child has a successful experience. And the bottom line with it is that you make the bathroom a fantastic, fun Disney of a place, and you take your child there. I mean, this procedure actually starts with your child spending almost all of the day there and then gradually allowing the child out. But like I said, I don't want to give you advice right now because I don't know where your child is. Just go and look at these procedures online, and I'm sure they'll be very helpful to you.
But just know that it's infinitely possible. One of the things I love about being around BCBAs is when you guys talk about potty training and you're like,
it's the easiest thing.
No, we can do that.
It's totally the easiest thing. There has never been a child who hasn't been potty trained.
There you go.
Ever.
There you go. So totally possible. Now I want to shift because we're almost out of time here. Somebody had written in, and this just broke my heart. I'm an adult with autism. I was diagnosed through Regional Center, which is here in California. I feel like I am dumb because I still live at home at 35 and have no job, have never dated, and am too stupid for school. I tried and failed for many years. What kind of work can someone like me do professionally if I'm too dumb to get an education or work a normal job? Is there a place for me? Break my heart.
That breaks my heart too. And you are not dumb, and there are a million jobs that you can do. I mean, if this is your writing,
right?
What you have in your head thinking that you are dumb is completely not right. Like, that is just not true, because you've written us a beautiful paragraph here as well, and
with punctuation so much better than most people.
Yeah, I mean, that aside, I also want to just say, like, there are all kinds of jobs and there are all sorts of opportunities for learning how to do a particular job. We just opened our first adult center. So I don't know where you are, but why don't you write into Shannon, and we will, whether or not you're close to our center, we'll definitely connect you with our adult supervisors, and they will help you with vocational training, which we can get coverage for from Regional Center, or even if you have health insurance, and we will help you learn skills, and we will help connect you to a job, which I think is important. But I think it's also important for you to be part of a maybe social group where you don't feel so horrible about yourself. And I'm sorry that the world has maybe, or life has maybe led to you feeling this way about yourself, but I'm certain that there are things you can be successful at that will make you feel a lot better about who you are, and we're very happy to help you with that journey.
Yeah, it just breaks my heart because somebody has sold you this bill of goods and
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
you know, that you can't and that you're not smart enough, and the evidence clearly states otherwise. So please write to me,
Please.
s.penrod@autismlive.com. There are lots of different things, as you said. There's, you know, a brand new center that's for adults in Downey, California.
Place, yep.
We've had Joanne Laura on the program a lot, talking about
course.
Autism Works Now. And their program is in more places now than it ever has been before. In fact, they hold one of their programs, their mother program, in a card center here in Woodland Hills. But we are seeing more and more programs that there are for adults to teach you whatever it is you need to do to be able to have a job. And it's amazing the jobs that people can do and how good they are at it.
Definitely, and to have an enjoyable life. Like, please don't be down on yourself like this. Life
Yes.
is not supportive. It sounds to me like you're being punished, you know, and
Yes.
we can make life a lot more enjoyable.
And when you get the work piece together, and this is something that
big part of
Joanne
it.
Laura has taught me, is that everybody has the right to work. And when you get the work piece together, that's how a lot of people's social lives come into play.
Absolutely, and,
right?
no doubt. I mean, look at us.
Yeah.
Like, we all spend all day here, and we're all friends with each other. No question.
This is now our family and the people that we socialize with, and it's the way you meet people, whether it's that you know, a lot of times it's frowned upon to date with people at work, but sometimes you'll meet somebody at work who sets you up with somebody that you
Right.
date with. It's
Right.
it's a whole web of a system that maybe you haven't had the on-ramp onto that.
Right.
But I know a lot of 35-year-olds who feel that way, whether they're on the spectrum or not. It's a difficult age. And some people just lock out and find their way onto it. But don't feel bad. Don't despair. There's absolutely a place for you. I also want to throw in there, to make sure that you know today that there's a place for you, please visit wrongplanet.net. Alex Plank's website, wrongplanet.net, which he started as a 17-year-old because he felt the same way. Is there a place for me? And he didn't see it, so he made it.
That's awesome.
And you will see that there are adults who are there who talk about the same difficulties that you're talking about, but a lot of them have figured out what to do. Some of them work at Disney.
That's awesome.
And some of them work, you know, for medical companies and all kinds of things. And you'll see what they have to say about dating. And I would also tell you, you just missed it, but there is a conference, Love and Autism, every year that happens in San Diego, that next year, Regional Center will pay for you to go to it. You just have to put in advance, but it would be a great place for you to go, meet people, see what they're doing.
I love that.
I love this year, I don't know if you know this, but we love Sue Cho. She's one of the most amazing people who's worked at CARD for how many years?
25 years.
Okay. And Sue just got married in the last year. And when
Right.
she was talking to me about getting married, I said, do you know what you're wearing for a gown yet? And she
Right.
said, no, I have no idea. And I said, well, you know, have you considered, we have a couple of designers that we've had on the show. Well, she met with a designer that we've had on the show who's on the spectrum, and he designed her gown, and they became really good friends. And he was one of the presenters at Love and Autism. So they'd been talking online, and he sent her the wedding gown, but she went and finally got to meet him
That's
last
awesome.
weekend for the first time.
Oh, that's
But
amazing.
these are the kind of people that you'll find at Love and Autism, so that you can feel like you find your community.
Absolutely.
We all have to find
definitely.
our tribe.
Yes, we
Right?
do. That's
All
right.
right.
Before we go,
yes.
Shannon, real quick, the last question
Yes.
asks if we do IQ tests.
Yes.
CARD doesn't, but we have a different company called Omid Psychometrics, and we do IQ testing. So the center right now is in the Hacienda Heights area, which is not too bad for you to go to if you want to schedule testing with us. So why don't you send your information to Shannon, and we can get that info out to you.
Okay, so again, s.penrod@autism-live.com, and I can connect you. That's our timer that we have done. We have to release Dr. Grampuchet, but stick with us because we're going to be back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Allspaw-Jackson is already here. I can hear her. And our guests today are Vince Redmond, licensed marriage and family therapist, and the fabulous Maxine Rosalier, author of Queen for a Day, my favorite book this year. So stick with us, back after these messages. I got to do the U-turn around the thing? Okay. So, Kelby, do I want the north entry or the south, or does it matter? Okay. Are we doing curbside bag check? Which way, Kelby? Left? Yeah. Kelby, can I go through the T? I have a toll tag.
Then you go through the T.
Okay. What do you do that, like, you could just spend 2 hours doing and have it suck all your time?
Oh, I like to look up interesting research articles on animal behavior. Found a really interesting European papers on how wolves are different than dogs that I read last week that were very, very interesting.
Very cool.
Because I've always talked about a brain can be more social emotional or a brain can be more cognitive.
Yeah.
And the wolf turns out to be more cognitive, and we've bred the dog to be more social emotional.
How fascinating is that?
Very, very interesting. The wolves were very good at watching another wolf solve a problem.
We were talking a little bit about television before, and I cannot believe that what you said to me, what you like to watch on television.
Star Trek. I was a Star Trek fan when I was a teenager. I liked the Star Trek Next Generation. I was watching that when I was working on my PhD in the 80s.
And so what?
Total Star Trek fan.
What's your favorite series, and what's your favorite character, and what's your favorite
Mr.
episode?
Spock was my favorite character.
Love it. And what's favorite episode? This guy is going to hate me.
There was a lot of good. My favorite Star Trek movie was the one with the whales.
Yes.
Yep, I really
mine
liked
too.
that Star Trek movie.
And so sad that we lost Leonard Nimoy this year.
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you like to watch television. Do you like to go to the movies too?
Oh yes, I went and saw Gravity. There's certain movies that have to be seen in a theater, like Gravity and Avatar.
Yes.
I went to see Inside Out in the theater. I really liked that movie.
What did you think of that?
I liked it. I think about how the emotions interact.
I gotta be honest, I had said after that I thought that it was going to be a great tool for people to show kids on the autism spectrum about perspective taking.
Yeah.
About what it's like in other people's heads.
Well, no, it's more like how the emotions inside your own head sort of conflict with each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love The Wizard of Oz, and I love the idea of the ruby slippers. She had the way back home. She just didn't know she had it.
Yeah.
You see, and I think that's a metaphor for a lot of things. A lot of people have the ruby slippers, but they don't know they have them. They don't know they have the key that can open up the door to a lot of really great stuff.
So what would you say was your ruby slipper?
Well, I had, when some opportunities came up, like when I designed those dip vats, that was a major breakthrough for my business. And when the head of the feed yard came up to me and asked me if I'd do it, I said, give me 3 weeks. You know, a lot of people would have been too scared to walk through the door. Now this is pre-internet, and I knew it would take me 3 weeks to get some of the information I needed, especially on concrete reinforcement, to design the dip vats.
But you did it.
I did it. I was on the phone the next day to the USDA to get the drawings on the concrete reinforcement.
Wow. So I want to journey back to childhood for just a second and talk about friends, because a lot of times people ask about friends. Who was your best friend?
When I was in elementary school, one of my best friends was a girl named Eleanor. And she was the first girl in elementary school to get to take wood shop instead of cooking. And I was the second girl in our school to get to take wood shop. So we like to make stuff. It's all about making stuff. And I had good friends in high school. Even though I got bullied and teased, I got friends who shared interests. Riding horses together, doing electronics together, doing model rockets together, doing stuff together with other students.
So you found, like your mom says about, you found your tribe.
Yeah, and you've got to get them in doing things with other people.
And you did a lot of theater, and did you sing as a kid?
Yeah, I did. One of the problems I was singing is I couldn't synchronize my rhythm with somebody else's rhythm.
Do you still have a hard time doing that?
I still have a hard time doing that.
Because we were going to ask you if you wanted to sing something in the car with us.
Well, I think maybe we'll skip that.
Great question. But the one question people always ask us is they want to know if you've ever been in love.
No, never have.
And you don't feel like you're missing anything.
I've seen so much turmoil in so many marriages that haven't really seen a situation that would be a good model.
And yet you gave me really good marriage advice.
Because I'm a good problem solver. You have to like take the problem and cut it down. And in engineering, you have to find the root cause of a problem.
What do you think is your secret to your success as a teacher?
Well, presenting things really clearly. That's really important. Making things interesting. I think it's also important that it's something in a class that a student can take home and use. I teach a class in cattle behavior and handling, and I've got a lot of students that are pre-vet that are going to go in the dog and cat. Probably won't be handling any cattle. But I said, you want to design this corral system because it's visual problem solving. You have to figure out how to do it. It's not a cookbook. And then I have my internet project where they can pick out anything in animal behavior, and I make them dig into a narrow subject that I have to approve because I want them digging into Google Scholar and PubMed, Science Direct, and the other databases. They got to learn how to find stuff online, and I'm finding about 2/3 of the students are not very good at that. How about this? Make magazine. This is the kind of thing that a lot of kids on the spectrum need to be doing. The cool stuff in here. Really
Make Magazine is going to love that you
Make
did that.
Magazine. It's a wonderful magazine. And I'm okay. Yes, and they're resurrecting old satellites from mission control and an abandoned McDonald's. That's the kind of stuff I really like. These are the kind of magazines we need to get into school. Make Magazine, Business Week, Science, Nature, Wired. We got to show kids out there. There's all kinds of super interesting stuff out there. But if they don't see it, then they don't know about it. I like to geek out on construction sites. I like to salivate over all the equipment they've got that we didn't have, like really cool man lifts and nice scaffolding. We didn't have any of that stuff.
You didn't?
No, we didn't.
What did you guys have? A compass?
Horrid ladders that were really dangerous is what we had.
I'm going to pull up right here. Okay. We're going to get your stuff out. Yep. Put your back up. Oh. We have to get the mic back from you too. Oh, you took it off already. You're good. That's attached to mine. Welcome back. I was just talking about the fact that I went to a farmer's market this weekend. I was telling Nancy, and I should start by saying welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. I'm Shannon.
And I'm Nancy.
But I'm in mid-sentence. There we go. There's Nancy.
Here I am.
There you are.
Welcome to Let's Talk Autism with Shannon.
There you go. So, but I was just telling Nancy that we went to this farmer's market this weekend, and my son is very epicurious. He loves, like, they had a raw oyster bar there,
Right.
and he'd never had a raw oyster
amazing
before.
To me that he likes food.
Oh, he was like, "Can I try one?" And I was like, "Of course." And he loved it and put the different things on it.
Loved a raw oyster.
Yeah, but he loves smoked oysters. But I didn't think he. But would Wyatt try a raw oyster?
I don't think so. Not in a million years.
Man, it makes just I love oysters, but the idea of a raw one makes me want to gag.
Well, if I put plenty of like the sauce on top of
Right.
it, seafood sauce and all
He
that.
said with the lemon juice, it was really good, and he put a little bit of the horseradish on it too. But we had a friend there who was selling ancient grain, and they grow whole wheat with totally organic, and it's an ancient strain that and then they grind it and sell it at this farmer's market. So we wanted to go and see
But
them.
it's not gluten-free,
But that's
obviously.
gluten city. In fact, we were
Right,
joking
of
about
course.
it. Jem walked up to their booth and in a British accent said, "Pardon me, do you have anything gluten-free?" Right? Because he's trying out his English accent. And my friend said, "We're gluten boy here. You're going to get away." But then 3 booths down, they had a gluten-free baker with the most incredible stuff. This olive loaf and this rosemary loaf that we lost our minds over. And dairy-free, too. And we were standing there, and he was saying, "This is the best place on earth, my child." And he said, the next thing we're going to find out is they've got cheese that doesn't have dairy in it.
Right,
I went,
and they
"Oh."
did.
And I said, "Oh, baby, don't wish for the moon," right? As I turn around and we're standing in front of a booth that is plant-based cheese. It's aged cashew cheese. They have a smoked one that is to die for.
It sounds good.
Now we can't wait to go back next
You're
week
making me
and get
hungry.
more. No, seriously, I'm telling you, a little bit of that. It's called Okie Smoky, and it's like cream cheese.
Right.
and you spread it on the rosemary loaf, the rosemary focaccia.
Yummy.
Stop, right? It's so good. So we had such a good time. It was an amazing thing.
Good.
Can you tell I'm a foodie? No. What would ever make you think that I'm into food? But very, very cool. Okay, so we got a lot to talk about because we got a big
we
show.
have two guests. We have Vince Redmond with us, marriage, family, and family therapist, as well as ABA.
Yes, amazing, amazing resource that he answers your questions. And a little bit later, we have Maxine Rosalaire. Am I saying it right?
Yes.
We've had her on before. She is the author of the book Queen for a Day, which both Nancy and I read this summer and loved. Did we not?
Yeah, we loved it.
And so we're thrilled that we've got her back because there was a lot to talk about her with, and we didn't get to all of it.
Right. She's got some tips and some good things to talk about based on her experiences with her son.
A way to help other parents. And we also have some in the news, but we've got Vince already on the. I think we should take a break and come back and talk to Vince instead of taking up his time.
Okay.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with Vince Redmond, licensed and marriage family therapist extraordinaire. So stick with us.
Potty training is different for every child. A child could come in with absolutely, no control over their bladder, and as long as that's not a medical issue, then we can certainly approach it behaviorally and give them the tools they need to be successful, just like any other skill that we would teach.
Well, we think he's learning to pee on the potty. No big successes yet and lots of accidents. Here is the laundry from today.
For some of our kids takes, just a couple days. And then for other kids, it can take months and months and months. And then when you're looking at complete independence, it can take years.
Hey, you have to go pee-pee?
There's a lot of different ways to tell if a child is ready. We look for a couple different things. Probably the most important is parents saying, I need this to happen, I'm ready. Second is, a child showing interest in the bathroom, and some of it is simply age. It's time to go ahead and work on this.
What are you doing? Pooping. You're pooping?
You first start with teaching the child what they need to do on the toilet. The basic thing we want is for them to drink as much liquid as possible. It's inevitable that if you drink a bunch of liquid, you're gonna pee.
Help. No, I can't help you pee. I can hold your hand, but I can't help you pee.
Ultimately, what we want is that, the child, as soon as they're put on the toilet, they urinate. So that's step one. Step two is usually working through the amount of time that they're off of the toilet and making sure that they're not having accidents during the time that they're off. So this is kind of the bladder control stage of things.
So the purpose of the potty log is just to see how long it takes them as soon as they sit on the potty for them to actually urinate, and the amount of time that he's able to hold his urine. And with the log, we're able to visually see how long it takes them each time, and if they have accidents or not. He's on a half-hour potty schedule, so if he doesn't go when we take him, then we have to take him in 10 more minutes. So every 10-minute intervals until he does go, and then we reset the clock, and it's 30 minutes again.
Okay, buddy. Okay, last chance to go pee-pees. Do we reset it for 10?
Oh, what does that mean? What does that mean, Jack? It's potty time! We can come play after. Hurry!
What we hope happens in this time is that the kids will learn how to initiate going to the bathroom on their own. This is oftentimes the hardest part of potty training, is because they get so used to somebody telling them when they need to go that they're not really recognizing the signs just in their own body of when they need to go.
Uh-oh, he wet himself.
Uh-oh. Big wet?
Was it a lot? We can reset to half an hour now.
The biggest thing for parents is not to give up. The other big tip, and I think pitfall that a lot of parents fall into, is putting their children back into pull-ups or diapers, especially if they're starting to have accidents. And this is probably the worst thing that you can do. They need to recognize that feeling of fullness in their bladder and take themselves to the bathroom, or tell an adult that they need to go to the bathroom.
What do you have to do? You have to put your pee-pee in the potty. Okay, give it a shot. See if you can put it in there.
love that
Oh,
video.
no, good potty training.
Well, and lovely to see how he's not that, in the first moment after he evacuates into the toilet, he's not that excited about it, right? But then everybody starts cheering, and then he's like, oh, I did something great, and he gets all happy. It's a wonderful example. Which brings me to our next thing, which is that we have joining us via Skype Vince Redman, who is a licensed marriage and family therapist. But one of the amazing things about Vince, and there is a lot of amazing things about Vince, is that Vince, for a lot of years before he became an LMFT, was a behavioral therapist.
Right.
He was in the trenches doing this kind of work, has worked extensively with all age ranges of kids. I always like to say, Vince, that I think you have a particular affinity with our teenage kids, because I think that you're a little bit of a miracle worker with our teens. Because I don't know, I think it's the coach in you, Vince, because
Could be.
Because Vince has worked extensively coaching soccer as well in his free time.
Okay.
And so I think that that's part and parcel of that you just get it on a level that a lot of people don't with the teens. But anyway, so we're welcoming Vince back to the show. So thrilled to have you, Vince.
Hello, hello.
Good to have you here.
And you are also, we need to say that your position is that you are the director of Card Family Services too. So you are a touch point for a lot of people to be able to have somebody to talk through issues that really, truly gets it.
Right. Help resolve issues, come up with different solutions, work with staff members to make sure that, everyone's being cared for.
Well, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and we thank you for your service. So Vince, we're a week out on
From
Halloween.
Halloween, which is one of the most dreaded holidays of any autism mom.
Yeah. It's rough. It's rough. And there's so many different considerations for everything from the costume, whether the kid will wear it or not, up through,
sensory overload from the night.
Yes, but I got to be honest that now our kids are in a category where there's a whole new problem where it's other people making comments about older kids trick-or-treating. And I never know what the politically correct thing to do is in those circumstances, but I kind of want to smack people upside the head and go, just because you think that people should stop trick-or-treating at a certain age, it kind of makes me mad.
Yeah.
I get a little uppity about it. What do you feel about that, Vince?
Well, I agree. I mean, there's a saying or a little meme that's out there right now is, instead of saying that, would you rather them out doing other things at night?
Right.
Would you rather them being out, getting involved in, inappropriate behaviors or hanging around crowds that will lead to, to crime or to, something that might harm them? I mean, the fact that they're out enjoying trick or treat, they're enjoying the festivities and they're enjoying the holiday, I think should be celebrated.
I do too, but I don't know how to get that out to the general public. I think we got to write a blog or something, or do a video about it, like now. But it is maddening. So a whole bunch of things that come with Halloween. There are some kids who have specific sensory issues. I remember on Parenthood, one of the first times I saw somebody address this in the public, there was an episode of Parenthood where they went to do Halloween, but their son, who liked to dress up in a costume every single day, was so petrified of fire that he freaked out. And they actually had a scene where the mom and the dad were explaining it to other people, saying, our life isn't like yours. Mm-hmm. And it was one of the first times that I saw something like that depicted on television. It was such a gift to all of us. But for the parents that are out there, they're facing this holiday, and just like Nancy was saying, they're dreading it. What can we give them, Vince, to help them to get through this in a way that doesn't make it should be a holiday, it should be celebrated instead of dreading it?
And we'll talk about the candy issue too.
Yeah, well then there's that.
I think the first thing is start planning for it now. I think a lot of the things that have happened and some of the frustrations that have happened with families is, we get caught up in our day-to-day and busy, and before we know it, as you guys were alluding to earlier, Halloween then is upon us, we haven't properly planned for it as a family. And we want to make sure that we do that as early as possible. Start looking at what are the sensory needs, what are some of the maybe the defensiveness that the child might have, and so that we can come up with alternatives, we can come up with resolutions. Maybe we can even start desensitizing before Halloween gets here, right? We need to prepare for it, like you were saying, differently than other families would, right? A lot of other families, they just buy a costume, and then on Halloween, boom, get dressed, get out, go do what you need to do. And that's not the case for our families. Our families need to prepare for this. We need to look at things that other families don't, like you were saying, like sensory needs, dietary restrictions. Again, what do they feel comfortable dressing up in other clothes or costumes? Like you said, some kids love it. They want to be something else. They dress up in costumes all day long, so this isn't a problem. But some have very restrictive, wardrobes that they wear. How can we adapt that? How can we use that to, maybe be a part of the Halloween festivities? And maybe it's different. Maybe they don't go trick-or-treating. Maybe they go to different events that are in the community, like trunk or treats, where you have churches or different organizations that have very small events that they can partake in, so that they still get to experience some of the festivities, but they might not be overwhelmed with having to go out trick-or-treating with so many other kids.
Right.
Even malls have the trick-or-treating
Right.
now, as you were saying.
There are a lot of
Vince.
organizations that have parties and special things
Yeah.
going on. What about the candy issue? My son is gluten-free, dairy-free, and of course they get candy from everybody that's loaded with dairy and gluten. How do you deal with that?
I think the one thing is, what is the candies, what is the stuff that we're handing out, right? I think for for the families, they want to be the ones that are showing that, so that, they should be handing out gluten-free candy, candy or casein-free, treats. So that the child sees that this is okay. This is okay to hand out, and this is okay to be able to be, to get these received. I have one family that has a great suggestion. What they do is they collect candy and then they donate it, and they donate it to, again, a church or a homeless shelter, or to, to centers like CARD, or to their PT, OT, speech, and they donate it, and they have like little bags, and they write on it, right? They make a creative, kind of art project for the kids, and then they deliver it, as, like it's a special delivery and things like that, so that they understand that what they're receiving is going to then be donated. But again, there's a lot of preparation that goes into that, so that they don't have the expectation that they're going to be able to ingest or eat the candy, right? This needs to be addressed fairly early on, that this is the candy that they're receiving is for somebody else, not for them. And then the treats that they're handing out that are, appropriate to their diet, they will be able to get and choose some of those to be able to take as their treats.
Right. So you tell your child that they can't have all the treats that are handed out, and they can only have certain ones, and you'll go through the bag with them later to determine which ones they can have.
Possibly, in maybe it's in the division stage, where there's a bucket for CARD, there's a bucket for speech, there's a bucket for your OT, and then there's a bucket for the child, and then together you're dividing what they can and can't have, so that it's distributed, and then they see at the end, this is the one that's for them, and this is the one that goes to their teacher and to their OT and to their speech pathologist and so forth, so that it's a fun activity to be able to do together. But then they also can see what they can have in the end, because again, a lot of times there are a lot of treats that are given that they can't have, because I know there's a lot of health conscious families that are out there now that are giving out a lot, more healthy snacks and things of that nature that they might be able to have. And plus, there are some candy and some treats that wouldn't have the ingredients in there that they're, that they're allergic to. So that would be stuff that they would be able to have as well.
Right.
But again, it's not something to do only after the fact, because the child's going to have the anticipation that this is for them. This really needs to be worked on and have a plan and practice prior to Halloween so that they know what that expectation is going to be.
Well, I love the idea.
They're expecting to keep it.
I love that, Vince. I love the idea of starting with your candy, the candy that you're giving out, and having them separate and say this piece of candy would go to our OT office and this one, so that they're sorting it, that they're learning, I can't have that one,
Right.
so that they're learning it for themselves. I love that. We always did a thing with Jem when he was little that we told him that we didn't tell him what candy was. He'd never had it because we started so early, but we told him that the stuff that he got that was candy, that we would trade it into the Lego fairy, and that the Lego fairy would come and take it and leave behind a Lego.
Oh, wow.
Now, we know other people that then started doing that with the Barbie fairy, that the Barbie fairy would come and take the candy and leave behind a Barbie. This year, for the first time, I have a son who has found out, he's discerned which candies he can have, and likes to eat those candies. So he'll sort for himself, but I have to teach him now, because we never had this issue before, about how much candy is appropriate to have, because he would just eat the whole thing.
Right. Ryan gives out the candy that's like milk chocolate to other kids that he sees while he's trick-or-treating.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's a fabulous thing.
Yeah.
And I was in Walgreens last night, Vince, and they had signs that they were giving out. There's this blue pumpkin movement that you can put a blue pumpkin out in front of your house to signify that you have treats that aren't candy and allergy. But Walgreens has signs that say allergy friendly, that they're giving away to families if you're going to be doing allergy friendly treats and tricks and treats. Yeah, that's right.
And the thing is, it's becoming a lot more mainstream, right?
Yeah.
It's not just the special education or special needs families and children that this affects, right? Nut allergies, egg allergies, milk allergies. I mean, these are becoming more prevalent in society. More kids that have these types of allergies, where you, again, like Walmart and Target and so forth, are addressing these needs by providing candies and treats and different things that would be appropriate for them, where before, and you ladies remember, right, when gluten and casein-free diets started, it was, homemade stuff was really the only thing that can be done, because it was really hard to find anything that didn't have flour in it.
Oh yeah, we just didn't bother.
Now, have whole stores. Ralph's and Vons have whole aisles of gluten-free things. So it's fortunately we're in a time now where this is a lot more accessible to foods and treats that will fit in their diet.
Absolutely. And they are treats. I want to caution all of us. There was an article that we don't have included in the news this week because we've been covering this a lot, but our kids are prone to be heavier. And we have to be careful, because we think, ooh, it's a treat, and they don't get it very often. But a lot of times, maybe it doesn't even have sugar in it, but it's got tons of calories. And we all have to be mindful of what our kids are eating, no matter what. And sometimes it may not have gluten and it may not have dairy, but it might have red dye number, whatever.
A lot of candies with dye.
Oh, yeah. So lots of things to be concerned about. So moderation in all things, a word that I'm not good with.
Right.
I am not good at the moderation thing, clearly. But we need to be aware of that for our kids to make sure that they're eating healthy. But so Vince, what do you say for I think one of the biggest things is the anxiety that comes with Halloween. The anxiety on the parent side about, are we going to be able to do this? Is my kid going to be able to, do whatever it is that you've planned? Because it's just one more time when we tend to be made to feel different.
Right.
Yeah. In a lot of that, again, goes into the early preparation, not only physically by getting things ready, but mentally too, right? The more we practice what we're going to do for Halloween, the less anxiety us as the parents will have, as well as the less anxiety the kids will have too. If they, with our kids, things have to be as predictable as we can make it, so that they know what their costume is going to be. We've tried it on, that they've worn it before. This is not Halloween's not the first day that they've ever tried that, because that you could get a very negative reaction with that. That we practice the sorting, that we've, whatever routine and plan that you guys feel is going to be appropriate, that it's planned ahead, that we go ahead and practice that as a family. So not only the anxiety of the child goes down, but then us as the parents have a blueprint of what we're going to do. We have the instructions of how we're going to do it, and that makes it easier for us than trying to think and adjust on the fly. And a lot of that happens on Halloween when we do wait until Halloween to actually roll out what we want to do, because we never know how it's going to go. We don't know how the kids are going to react, and how they're going to respond to not only the excitement, but also sometimes that sensory overload with having so many, kids out there and different changes in the routine, right? You don't typically see kids walking up and down the streets at 8 o'clock at night. This is going to be new for them. And so when we're able to practice it, and sometimes the kids don't go out, sometimes they stay home and they're the delivery of the treats, right? They put the treats in the bag and they wear their costume at home because it is too overwhelming to go out for them. And that's okay. We can then come up with a plan and a routine at home so that they can participate that way instead.
Yeah.
But either way, preparation is going to be very helpful for everyone's anxiety.
Yes, and I agree with you too, Vince, that there's a part of it that's letting go of the expectation of what you thought it was going to be,
Right.
which is every day, right?
Yeah.
But I know one mom taught me that, you get the costume on them, get a picture quick, right away, and that way, as the evening progresses and they they take off the headpiece, it's like, who cares?
Yeah,
and they take off the gloves, who cares?
Yeah.
Because it's like, what was the expectation? That they were going to be in the costume the whole night? But get the costume on and get the picture.
Right.
Boom.
Because here in Southern California, it tends to be a warm night anyway. And
Yeah.
sometimes they can't wear the whole costume for the whole time.
And if you don't get the picture in the first 5 minutes, let me just tell you, you're not going to get
Right.
it. And that's a bummer if you don't get the picture. But if you've gotten the picture, that's like everything else is gravy.
Right.
Right.
Right. No, exactly right. Exactly right. And I think, and then you can have them get ready for the picture and pose for the picture and be excited for the picture and actually have that as part of the plan so that we get the pictures and then we get ready to go out.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, after that, it's all, it's all fun and festivities. If they take their mask off, that's okay. If they take their, ribbon off, that's okay. If they take their, my daughter, had pigtails for a costume, was not having anything of that, and kept pulling them out, the minute we stepped out the door. You know what? That's okay. Let them have fun. At that point, it's all fun. We have the pictures and the memories, and see how cute they are. And then the rest is, let's have a good time, and I think you pointed out a really good point, Shannon, is don't have preset expectations of the way it has to be.
Yeah.
Right? Have the expectations of we're going to have fun no matter how it's going to be.
I think that's one of the hardest thing about holidays is that we're all chasing the perfect holiday. And, in some cases it's, an actual holiday that we had in our childhood, but in some cases it's just a made up, perfect Hallmark holiday that we think we have coming to us. And I don't know anybody who has that.
Right.
Even
Not
if they
just
have
autism families.
Right. No, even if they have it, it looks like they have it. If
right.
you ask them questions, you realize, no, they don't have it either. But it's that thing of letting go and just being in the moment and taking what you can. And I always get myself so revved on Halloween that I want it to be a certain thing. I want it to be a certain thing. And it usually takes me a good 10 minutes in before my husband will say something or I'll say something that I'm like, let it go.
Right,
Let it go,
right,
let it go, let
right.
it go. Let it just be what it's going to be. It's hard for me, but I get there. One of our viewers said it's teal pumpkin, and it lets the trick-or-treaters know that they have special treats like toys. I did pick up the other day in just our grocery store, they were selling these really cool tubes of bubbles, which you can give for trick-or-treat. They were long and skinny in different colors, Halloween colors, and I was like, that's going in my teal pumpkin. So we give away candy that has gluten and dairy in it. We do, but I always try to make sure that we have something different. Do you give away candy, or are you guys out?
We're out trick-or-treating, so we don't give away candy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard because,
Right.
but
Sometimes they give out glow sticks and they give out, little things that they can be that easily bought in bulk and be able to give out, that the kids will love it, right? Anything that glows, the kids really like. Bubbles, again, that's another great one.
yeah,
'cause
well,
those-
but I didn't think about glow sticks before because you can get those and they're pretty inexpensive. And it actually is great because then it helps to keep them lit up so that the cars can see them.
Right,
So
right.
what a wonderful thing. Great idea, Vince. This has been wonderful talking with you. As always, we appreciate you so much. But we don't want to keep you from what you got to do. Thank you. And we want to remind people, if somebody is a card client and they have a need to talk to you, whether it's that they've got an issue or they just want somebody to talk to, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you, Vince?
They can email me at v.redmond, REDMOND, at centerforautism.com.
Vince,
Okay.
is that how you say your name?
Yeah.
So for like 6 years, we've been saying your name wrong?
Oh, no, everyone. I say Redmond.
Okay.
I mean, you
All
say
right.
Redmond, but when you say Redmond to spell it.
Okay. Oh,
So
okay.
they can
All right.
spell it the right way.
All right. I just didn't want to be saying your name wrong forever and ever and ever. Thank
Okay,
you, Vince.
thank you
We
for
adore
joining
you.
us, Vince. Have a
No
happy
problem, ladies.
Halloween.
Have a great rest of your week.
You too.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye-bye.
I just love Vince.
Yeah.
Everything is better when Vince is there.
Right.
I have to say, I have spent like a week with Vince working at a conference with my son. He's just the best. He's wonderful. All right, we're going to take a break, and then we're coming back with our guest, Maxine Rosalaire, and she is.
Are we going to do in the news first, or are we going to wait on that?
I think it's time for, and
Time
we'll
for
do
Maxine?
news at the end and talk a little bit
All right, good.
recap on Denim and Diamonds.
Okay.
So stick with us. Back in a few minutes. We are here at the Los Angeles Zoo. We've got quite a group here. I've got my son, Jem, Mike from the A Word, and Jack Riley, star of the A Word, and Jessica. We've got a whole crew of people, and we're going to take a tour around the LA Zoo and see some exciting animals. Sound good, you guys?
What are the safety rules, though? Who do you have to stay next to? Daddy and Dad.
So remember what we talked about? That every time you do something good, I'm going to write it on my hand. When you get 35 of these, what are you going to get?
3 hours of reading.
Yes, it's not a secret. You can tell people. What kinds of things do you need to do to get a mark on my hand?
Being kind. And good listening.
Jem, can you show him where the chimpanzees are? Can you point it out to him?
Show Jack Riley. And tell us what your responsibilities are here at the LA Zoo.
I am the manager of volunteer programs at the Greater Los Angeles Zoo Association. I oversee the docents, the student volunteers, the general volunteers, and community service volunteers.
Give us an overview of what kinds of things people can see at the zoo.
There are lots of animals to see. We have a lot of endangered. We participate in a lot of conservation programs, and we offer a lot of education programs for our community, for school groups, for members, special needs.
What kinds of accommodations can you make when somebody has specific issues?
We have our special needs outreach program, and where we have a van that goes out into the community, and we bring a handful of animals to facilities that can't quite get to the zoo. So that could be a school, that could be a retirement community, that could be a hospital, and there are some courthouses that we visit as well. And we bring a couple animals, and we talk about them, and it's kind of a fun experience. So that's our outreach program. And then on grounds, we also have tours, and we offer special needs tours for people catered to their needs. We have our petting zoo, so you can go and you can pet some goats.
We're here with from Autism Live, and we were wondering if you could tell us what it's like to be a goat in the zoo. Really?
And we have our condor rescue zone, so you can go in and pretend you are a condor, or you could be a biologist, or you could be a vet. And it's kind of fun.
Thank you for all the work that you do here and for making it accessible for all of our kids. here with Janet Jackson. Janet, tell us what your role at the zoo is.
My role is a docent, and we're volunteers.
How did you learn all the things that you know?
Well, that's the great thing about the Los Angeles Zoo. We have a special docent program. It's one of the most stringent ones in the country. Actually, it's UCLA accredited class.
Well, it added so much to our visit to the zoo today, so I thank you for all your knowledge and all your giving to the community.
Well, thank you, because I had a special needs child too, and I think it's so important that they interact with animals, and that helped my son when he was going through so much trauma, that we saw that he was able to grow and to expand a little bit, and it just helped us as parents because we had a tool to use, and we saw the love and the care that he was able to bring out just by touching animals and being around animals, because there is no judgment there.
Amen to that. Well, thank you for paying it forward, because you are. I definitely saw you doing that today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
What was hard for you guys today at the zoo, do you feel?
To be completely honest, I was about to say this is the easiest, best outing I can recall. My concerns are, I think we're sort of past elopement, but it's always on my mind when it's just with the two of us out in a, you can get 20 feet away if it's busy and be lost, be misplaced. But nothing like that happened today. There were a lot of people helping me, of course.
It was interesting for me because Jem hasn't been here since he was 3, like right after we started therapy. And I remember that was hellish, the day that we were here. Sometimes I don't notice the progress until we're out someplace like this. Do you feel like that's true too?
Yes, today I was actually comfortable with him being 15, 20 feet away. And even if he wasn't holding anybody's hand or anything, I was comfortable. And that's a new feeling.
I watched that and I said, man, there's no way we could have done that at that age. So he's doing really well. And I was so engaged by how Jack Riley is so aware of the circumstances around him. He's really doing great.
Yeah, thank you. He's curious. And he's just learned a lot. I mean, I can't give enough credit to Miss Jessica. No disrespect to any of our other therapists, and she's been with him for the whole time. So that's a constant in his life, and I dread the day when she's not.
It's always amazing. We had our rock star on our team. There's always one therapist that just becomes a part of your family forever. What would you say to parents who are afraid to do it even with an aide?
I understand your fear, because I've always had it. But sometimes they surprise you. I know it's called a spectrum for a reason, and my son is not like any other son or daughter, and so I can't advise you on what may or may not happen. We were always worried about transitions. They're getting better because we do it, and explain what is expected before you get here. That was a hard lesson for me to learn, but every time I don't explain to him the expectations, I have more problems. I have more transitional issues, but when he knows what transitions he's going to face that day, he handles it. So my advice would be, talk it out, but come do it, and come again, even if it's a horrible experience, because it might be. You got to do it the first time before you can do it the second time. So.
I think in general, I explained the expectations here and we carried it out of my hand. I agree with you. It's super duper important. I think it's good for us too, because then we know what we're expecting too.
And they've engaged each other a little bit, which I was very happy to see.
Thank you so much for coming and doing this play date with us. We had a really great time.
Well, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it, and it's just a great experience. I can't wait to tell my wife how well he did. So.
And let's do it again sometime.
Okay, anytime.
And we are back with Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. And as promised, we have a return guest, Maxine Rosaller, who wrote the book Queen for a Day, which Shannon and I just absolutely loved.
Yes.
It was just amazing, Maxine.
I gotta say, it's my favorite book this year that I've read. There are things about it. It's months since I've read it. There are things that I still think about. I laughed, and I can name maybe 7 books and I read a lot. I can name 7 books that I've laughed out loud during, and I laughed out loud during Queen for a Day, but it's also incredibly moving.
It is very emotional, and you've been nominated for a lot of awards now, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm really kind of like, pissed off because okay, I'm putting the poster on my face now.
Okay.
Because I didn't get any mainstream reviews. So I don't feel like I'm getting enough coverage, but I got this great review. I'll send it to you. I'm not gonna waste time. Okay. But anyway, but yeah, I was nominated for a lot of awards. I'm not even gonna pay.
It's a fabulous book. It should get mainstream reviews. And I'll tell you something else. I would encourage you to get the book to some of the people all these women that have production companies now, because there are great female actresses that this would be a tour de force for them if they were to do a film version of your book. And there are people interested in it, but let's talk. I would like to talk to you about that sometime. All right.
But there are people interested, but I want to make sure it's done the right way.
Okay, so today, when there were a lot of reasons why we wanted to have you come back, Maxine. There are so many things that we were excited to talk to you about, and you really are a woman on a mission. You want to help other moms. One of the things that you said to us is that you recently did a show, Who Lives Like This, and that the discussion came up about talking about identity and how women identify themselves as mothers and how special needs mothers identify. And so let's talk a little bit about that. What particularly moved you about this discussion?
Well, it was actually my initiation was something I've been thinking about. What happened was I was with a friend of mine who's a very wonderful person. I adore her, and she was very successful at this, major, and then she had a very severely disabled daughter. And I was talking to her about identity, and I said to her just casually, I don't really think of myself as a special needs mother. I just don't think of myself that way. And she said, oh, that's the only way she thinks of herself. And then that moment during that time with her, I felt that my identity had been subsumed into this identity as a special needs mother. And I really hated it. I don't think it serves any purpose. I think it's very counterproductive. And I don't think it serves any purpose for your child as a, quote, stupid term, right? Special needs child. I think it's just to do the work and get on with your other identity, whatever you can. So that's what I was, so I initiated the discussion, and in fact, it was interesting because I had an interview with Leonard Lopez. He's on BAI now. Him. He hasn't watched the kid, but anyway, he's very well known. And I was talking about that with him, and I just said that I just don't like it. So what do you think about it? How do you feel about it?
It's interesting. I do a show now called the Autism Monologues, and there's a part in it where
Talk about what?
There's a show a one-woman show that I do called the Autism Monologues, and there's a character in it that she brings up the discussion of why do autism moms call themselves autism moms? There's no other group on the face of the earth, like you don't hear people say, I'm a diabetic mom,
right,
or I'm an alopecia mom, or like nobody else identifies themselves by the diagnosis of another person. And this character that I wrote says this, but I think about it all the time, and I have infinitely more trouble identifying myself as an autism mom. And I do it only because it's quick. I wish there was a way that I could explain to people in terms that isn't about him what it is that I'm trying to say. You know what I mean? Because when I'm saying to somebody I'm an autism mom, I'm trying to say to them, I'm a part of this community and I get it. But I wish there was another way of saying it because I don't like the words, but I can't come up with anything short.
I've never once said that. And
really?
I I've never once, and I think it's very counterproductive. And it's interesting that you're thinking along those lines the same way that I am. I just don't think it serves a purpose. You can just say you have a kid who, on the spectrum.
Right,
Leave it
right.
at that.
Yeah.
So don't make it your whole identity.
Takes up every minute of your day and who you're worried about all the time, and you don't stop working.
Right.
Yeah, I love that Nora Ephron always used to say that there should be 5 words that you use to describe yourself, and that they'll change throughout your life.
Yeah.
Really?
And yeah, Nora Ephron was really big on that. So maybe you're a friend and you're a wife and you're a writer and you're all of these things, but over the years your role will change, and those 5 words that you use to describe yourself will change, because at a certain point you're a daughter, and then, not that you're not a daughter anymore, but when your parents die, that isn't going to be one of the 5 big things anymore. And it has been an interesting thing for me lately that I am questioning that where in the realm of, I do think of myself now as just being a mom. And when did that happen? I'm excited that it happened, but when did it happen? And I do think it's important that we all get to that. But when you have other considerations, it's hard to deny that too.
Yes,
it's a part of your life.
It's a part of your whole. It does become a part of your whole identity.
When you're a caregiver, but is it that we should be calling ourselves caregivers then, or? It is an interesting question, Maxine. I
don't think it serves any purpose. I think it just is about the work. That's all it's about, and you're doing the work, and it's just something you do. I don't think I think it's counterproductive, because I did feel that just based on my one experience as having felt my identity being lost in that. It was a very disheartening thing. I didn't like it.
So now that you're looking at it differently, Maxine, do you feel yourself being more yourself and more of your own identity, having let go of that?
I've never had it. I never once in my life, except for that one moment with my friend Anne, that I felt like an autism mother. I've never felt it. In fact, I was saying to my daughter, Sammy, I don't feel like a mother. And she says, I said to her, can't even believe I'm a mother. And she said, neither can I. Which, that speaks volumes about what a great mother I am.
Oh, no, that's amazing.
Now, Maxine, one of the things you said that you would like to help others learn from your mistakes. So you would like to tell them, other mothers out there, to take care of themselves and to choose their battles. Can you elaborate on that?
I think that's really important. When Benji was first diagnosed, I spoke to some people, and they said, take care of yourself. And of course, the whole notion of taking care of myself is so absurd and so beside the point. And I didn't take care of myself. And for years, I just threw myself headfirst into this never-ending battle. And it costs a lot. I mean, it doesn't help you be a better mother. It takes years off your life, really. I don't know if specifically mothers of children with autism, actually, or special needs, quote unquote, don't live as long as regular people.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's statistic, actually. And so I think it's very important that you take care of yourself. And I think and to sort of give yourself time. I'm not saying that I do this myself, but I'm saying that it's a really good piece of advice.
Yeah, and you advise for us to know our limits. Man, I'm not good at that.
Yeah, because basically the way I work, and the way I always did with Benji, was I would be working from the moment I woke up until I went to sleep, but not even until I went to sleep, until I just could not physiologically endure it anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I do. I think we both were nodding our heads, because been there, done that. Where my husband would say to me, you got to pull the plug on this.
Right.
When is enough? And I still struggle with knowing when enough is enough.
I know. I don't know. I have no idea, but I think it's very good advice, don't you?
I do. I just want to figure out how we all get there.
Well, another way of doing it, I'm sorry for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
But another way of doing it, I think that's very helpful, is to find other mothers. I think it's very important to be part of a community of one other person, however many mothers you find. Because I think knowing that you're not alone in this can help support that.
Well, you say for younger mothers that you want to encourage them to trust the system. I got to tell you,
not trust the system.
No, to not trust.
Oh, okay. I read it wrong because
you
I was like,
kidding?
I was going to say, because in the book,
Are you kidding?
okay. No, that makes total more
Right.
sense. I read that and I was like, how can she be advising that? Not trust the system. I love that advice.
Yeah, no, you can't trust the system. You can never trust anyone to tell you the truth, or don't assume. You know what happens also is, like, you go into this and you with an open heart, because your heart is, and you're going into it and you're with your hands out and your heart open. And then it's like having salt, to switch metaphors here. It's like having salt rubbed into a wound, because these people don't care. There's almost like a corporate culture of not caring and of arrogance. And the people who do care, I don't know what it's like in California, and there are some districts that actually do take care of children, but they're very few. So I would say that be prepared not to be helped, and to have to fight to help.
Yeah, I know. I certainly experienced, and when I read your book, I was like, oh, because there are parts of your book where you're talking about fighting with the school district, that it was so healing to me to hear it put from another mother's point of view, so that I felt like I wasn't crazy. But I always felt like I was standing in front of a group of people who were trying to automate something, that they were trying to get it to the point where they could make it one size fits all.
Yeah.
And that I kept saying, but that's crazy. It's an individualized education program. But I constantly felt like they were like, no, we made a program and your kid has to fit in the program.
Yeah.
And it's like talking to crazy people, because you're like, no, it's not the task here. The task is to create something that fits this child, not a program. But that they were constantly shoving us into this mold or that mold. And if you don't fit the mold, and I don't know any kid that fits the mold,
right,
then where do you go? So I appreciated your book so much, because I thought you articulated exactly what it feels like when you're going up against this system.
Well, yeah, and it's very, very ugly. I mean, it's ugly beyond words when you think about what happens, because here you are, a heartbroken mother, and it's your child, and they're doing this to your child. So the combination is just unbearable. That said, I feel that each person has to know what they can do.
Yeah.
You know, not everyone can go and fight the system, and you have to sort of know your limits in terms of your personal limits, and also your limits in terms of what you're capable of doing.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about what you're doing with Benji now, which is self-direction.
Well, yeah, man. If I didn't have Benji was graduating from high school. I was terrified. I was crying. I just didn't know what I was going to do. I looked into some programs, but no way I was going to put in a program. And he wanted to go to college. How could he go to college? He was, he was in a class with 6 kids and 2 teachers, and he'd always had a shadow. A paro, call them. And then I initially went to, I wasn't told that to do self-direction, so I went through this agency, and they paid, like, I hired myself, but they paid like $11 an hour, $10 an hour. And then I found out about self-direction, and self-direction lets you hire, train your own staff, decide what your child can do, wants to do, is capable of doing, and then putting together a program and using your budget to allocate funds. Since you're managing the program, since you are the quote unquote administrator of the program, you're offsetting a lot of administrative costs, and you're able to pay people who work with your child much more money. And it's a dream. Eventually, would not be able to go to college if it weren't for the program. I have a friend whose kid is, my friend Gwen Kaplan, who you must talk to. She has an autistic daughter, and she created a farm for her
What a
daughter.
wonderful thing.
And she couldn't have done this if had self-protection. I mean, she had to, she had to have money for the farm, but other people can be part of that farm.
Right.
Through self-protection. So there are any number of things you can find what a child is interested in and do it, and not dump for her into some day have program.
Exactly. And self-determination, it really is the cutting edge. Unfortunately, we are like so out
We're
of
out of
time.
time.
I didn't even realize
Once
how late
again,
it is.
we
But,
start talking to you and we can't stop.
I know, because you're so
Well,
fascinating.
yeah, I had requested an hour actually, but I guess it didn't go through.
Well, and in any case, I want to remind people that in New York State, there is this self-direction.
Self-direction.
In
We don't have it in
California, they call it
California
self-determination. We do have it starting on January 1st for a select group of people. But if you want more information, Google it in those two states because, it's a thing that's happening and it is amazing. Maxine, we love you. We love your book, Queen for a Day. And
everybody should
tell
read
us, everybody should read it.
I really do.
Tell us where we can get the book.
Okay, well, where's the picture of it? It's all over on Amazon.com, I guess. You can do it there, Barnes and Noble, any bookstore. I mean, just Amazon definitely has it. And you can also go directly to Houghton Mifflin.
And my favorite book that I've read this year.
That's not my publisher. Oh my God.
It's
anyway,
in any case, things in the future. But my favorite book that I read this year, Nancy just
Mine
said
too.
hers as well. So get that book. Maxine, thank you so much for being with us.
Joining us again.
We're totally out of time, and we didn't even get to talk about Denim and Diamonds. But next week is our Halloween show. We will definitely show some pictures from Denim and Diamonds.
Okay.
But Nancy, it was a beautiful event.
Good.
You did an amazing job.
I'm glad that you
if
were
you
there.
didn't get to see some of the footage, there was a West Wing reunion on the red carpet.
Yeah,
it was
great.
Amazing.
It was great. You got some great interviews.
It was like, bucket list stuff.
Yeah.
It was truly, truly amazing. We're totally out of time. I apologize for
the
running
news.
short. No time for news. But please, we'll be back tomorrow with great guests. Give your kiddos a hug from me.
And yourselves a hug from me.
Bye-bye for now.
All right, bye-bye for now.